Welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about kitchen strategy, not pots and pans, but pickleball. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ryan Perry. I'm a struggling 3-0 pickleball player, and I'm joined here today with Gary Heinlein, who is not only a coach, but he's a 4-0 rated player in Duper. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, definitely. Today, let's talk about kitchen strategy, and that is also the no volley zone. Some people might refer to it as playing at the net. I've learned personally that the game, for the most part, is won or lost at that no volley kitchen line. So what are some of the strategies that people should be paying attention to who are just starting out or starting to advance and maybe starting to understand the game a little bit? What do they need to be aware of to make them a better player?
I say the first one is get to the kitchen line. It's called the kitchen line or the no volley zone line, but I call it the attack line.
Okay.
Because that's where you're going to attack. You have more open space. The angles are much better. You have more to place your shots and all than what you do further back. And a player playing back, they're either way at the baseline, which they can't. They're going to have to really be precise on their shots, or they're in no man's land where they're going to get it slammed at their feet. So the thing is, get to the kitchen line. In the pros, they call getting to the kitchen line, they call it getting large. Because
I haven't heard that one yet.
You got 6'5" guys with swingspans that spread across the court. Well,
right.
They're large. I call it getting scary.
Okay.
So for anybody, if you get up there to that kitchen line, now if you're way back there, they've got more opportunity to hit balls different ways. Now you're at the kitchen line, they have to be thinking, where am I going to place a ball? That guy's already at the line.
Right.
So it puts a scary thought to it.
And let's talk about timing, because we talked about this in a prior video. What is the timing difference and how important is that playing at the kitchen versus you have your opponents playing at the kitchen, but you're playing back? How does that affect the game? And, does it tilt the odds one way or the other?
Well, the odds are very well tilted for your opponent if they're at the kitchen line and you're back, because they're going to be placing balls and keeping you back. If anytime your opponent is back, keep them back. Right. Okay, so they stay away from the kitchen. The games are won and lost, like you said, at the kitchen line. So your job is to get there. If you're the receiving team and your opponent, your partner's already at the kitchen line, as soon as you return serve, get there as fast as you can. We did a video on getting a little more loft into that serve to give you more time to get to the kitchen line. Okay, and you get up there, now you're there scary. You're both there, and they have to put the ball through you. And that's where then it neutralizes when both teams are at the kitchen line. Mm-hmm. They call that a neutral game, where you're both even, and that's where you go into your dinking game, just putting it across, dropping it into the kitchen, nice and soft, unattackable, they call it. Because if you get it up too high or bounces too high, then they can put it away.
So let's talk about that. So I think there's two things. One is let's talk about the unattackable, since you just talked about it. What is unattackable, and what are some strategies to make sure that you're not getting that ball up into an attackable position?
There's different ways. There's as far as dinking and the strategy of the kitchen game, there's how do you call it? It's more of an arch that'll just drop over the kitchen line and hit there.
You're kind of lifting the ball versus popping the ball.
The lift dink.
Right.
And then there's a push dink. Mm-hmm. Okay, which you still got to lift it over the net, but you're pushing it a little deeper to get it at their feet, because if you're supposed to try to get the ball, volley it out of the air, staying behind the kitchen line, so it cuts down time for your opponent to react. Okay, but as you're reaching out there and a ball starts to come towards your feet, you have to make a decision: am I going to volley this, or am I going to step back and take it as a drop, letting it drop and bounce? And so you have different strategies of that. But the key to it is Dave Weinbach, one of the top senior pros, he always says, respect the net. I know when I was learning from him, and he was teaching up at my hometown Payson, and that was always respect the net. In other words, if you hit that net, you haven't done it. Get it over the net. So same way with dinking, get it over. And then part of the strategy, too, a lot of beginners, they're just trying to get over the net, which is great. Mm-hmm. But now if you want to advance, you're going to have to learn to move that dink around. move it to the outside, move it to the inside. You know, after a little bit, you can switch directions, but, you know, make sure your partner knows, because you have to shift when there's a shift in direction and all. But when you're working cross court, which they always say, you know, do the cross court dink because your net's lower, 34 inches in the middle where it's 36 on the outside, you got a lower net. Plus you have more room to work with on a cross court. Okay, so you're cross court, but just to hit it right to the part or to your opponent, you know, to his feet or anything, just to hit it there, he gets used to that. If you can move him and move him from inside outside, you know, and they say set up a pattern of dinking. Mm-hmm. You know, you set up your own pattern, but you'll switch that pattern around. So you say, okay, I'm going to go 2 to the outside, 1 to the middle. You know, so you've got a pattern that you're working. So that's, as a player advances, he learns to move the ball around and get them moving.
Okay. And I think the other thing that you mentioned that was kind of an aha moment for me when I learned it, because these are things you just don't know if you don't know, is with that lower net at the middle, I think most people, it's kind of organic to just feed the person across from you, but the amount of room that you have to play with is a lot less. That means your room for errors is a lot higher, because you have to hit the ball just right, versus if you're going cross court, so we're going diagonally now, is it opens up a wider margin of error that you're allowed as a player. So I think as you're learning, going cross court, and then, you know, try and get in that top corner of the kitchen. You got to be careful because of the Ernie and those type of things these days, playing with advanced players. But kind of getting, okay, I'm gonna go cross court, but try and get it towards the center line. And what you're talking about, moving the ball around. Now I'm gonna go cross court, but I'm gonna try and get it towards that outside line.
Right.
And don't try and paint the line, because if you're still learning, you may paint outside the lines, which is never any good. So give yourself that 20% buffer, a couple of feet, if you will, and, you know, kind of play with that back and forth. And then if you go back and forth 3 or 4 times, you talked about changing up the pattern. Now go ahead and give the person next to you, especially if they've started creeping in towards that center line, because the ball keeps on moving that way. I think, you know, putting the ball on the other side towards the line, it can throw people off guard quite a bit.
You're moving the ball around. If you're doing cross court, I think I mentioned in one of the other videos, cross court, and the ball's coming, it kind of lures this person into sleep.
Yeah.
You know, they're thinking, they're just watching like that, and all of a sudden you just, even backhand, is it coming this way, or if it comes out deep or wide, you just roll it over the net right into them, and they're not ready for it, you know, because it catches them off guard. So things like that. Or if, like you said, if they're creeping into the middle trying to poach, just lifting that ball over, and it doesn't have to be hard at all, just a little thing over there, but they're way over here and they can't get to it. So just hitting behind them. So there's a lot of strategy in the kitchen that people don't. They think it's it's boring, you know. And all.
Well, and let's talk about that, because if you're a banger, and I'm sure you've played against a lot of bangers, they get really frustrated when you bring the soft game in, the dinking game in, and you don't allow them to have that power. So, you know, how do you play in those situations when you're playing at the kitchen then against somebody who has kind of showed that they really want to play that power game?
Yeah. The thing that you got to watch out for, it's so easy to be drawn into the power game. You know, you bangers, and they start banging at you. Yeah,
it's fun.
It's fun. You know, it's exciting, because when you got a shootout, everybody's, but it's fun. But if you want to win games, you're going to have to play that soft game. And that, like you said, frustrates the bangers. So you just have to remind yourself on the soft game. And when you come in, and I tell you this, I learned this, that when you think, oh, I'm playing against some good players and they hit hard and all, you know, you just put it back at them. But you think, I'm going to play the soft game. And it takes the tension out of it. You just, here they hit it hard. You just reset it, put it back, get into the dinking game. It'll only last a couple times. You have to be ready, because I played in one tournament where we finally caught on what was happening. We were dinking it, and they were taking it below the net and rolling it over right into us. And that was their strategy against everybody, and they were winning and all. And so this was kind of reversal we were trying the soft game on them. So we're talking soft game, but
Right.
we reversed it and went into what's called shake and bake, where on our returns, we drove the ball while my partner come in, or I came in, whoever returned the ball, and the other partner comes in. And usually you get a pop-up out of it because they're trying to block like that, and then you just put the ball away.
Yeah.
Well, we did that, and it was successful.
Right.
But like I say, most of the time, you want to learn that soft game and how to just drop it in there and use finesse, as you call it,
Right.
and just put that ball. It'll frustrate the bangers to no end.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing is that when you do it enough, at some point they're going to get frustrated and they're going to hit it prematurely. They're going to get a yellow ball or even a red ball that they know it's going to go straight into the net or it's going to go out. So sticking with that soft game is really important. I think, and the last thing, unless you've got something else that I think is important, is that if you get caught up in the bangers and hitting it hard and you're losing because you're playing against a team that maybe is a little bit more powerful, taking a break, reminding your partner, let's slow it down. Let's play the kitchen. Let's play the soft game. Let's play the dink game. Throws them off balance half the time. And I tell you, there's been a few times I've done that, and it's totally changed the momentum of the game.
Right. It's that's the whole thing, is changing the momentum of the game. If you're losing, look at what can you do different? How can you change it up? And it's usually the speed. If you're trying to hit too hard and all, slow it down, because if they're beating you on speed, you're analyzing your game as you go, and you're figuring out what can I do different. And just like you said, when you're back there, you don't have to call a timeout to get strategy. You just put your paddle up and block your say, let's slow it down. Let's play the kitchen.
Right.
And you'll find that changes the momentum, especially if somebody's run a series of points on you, 6 or 7 points on you. You got to find something different to change that momentum.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Gary, thank you for your time today. Appreciate it. If you guys got any questions, comments, feel free to leave those below. We do want to thank DT Footwear for sponsoring these videos, and of course, the shoes that both you and I wear.
Yep. Most comfortable pickleball shoes I've ever worn.